This show is part of the RetroZap.com podcast network.
Previously, on a very tender and loving Starships, Sabers, and Scoundrels.
As I mentioned earlier, the road to Solo has begun. As we count down the months, weeks, days, and hours to Solo, a Star Wars story, we'll be focusing on things related to the best smuggler in the galaxy.
The Solo promotions began with the Big Game TV spot that aired during a commercial break in the Super Bowl. At about 30 seconds long, the teaser featured images of a young Han Solo, Lando, Emilia Clarke, and Woody Harrelson, and of course, the Millennium Falcon.
When it aired, I've been saying all along that I'm not really concerned about this movie. I've placed a lot of trust in Ron Howard, but I noticed that I had this huge exhale when it was over, and then I immediately shouted, "Yes!" I loved it. I absolutely loved this. Taxus, what was your favorite thing that you saw during that trailer?
My favorite thing was the Twi'leks. Dancing.
I knew it.
Yeah.
We have a special Scoundrels Valentine.
To the soulmate I finally found. I never expected to meet someone like you. And I'm sorry that I seem so distant. But you had your secrets too. And you weren't sure if my father would approve of you. But I'm glad you let him live, even with my daddy issues. Through it all, I've learned we weren't that different. But our plans changed, and when I think of all the minutes we lost, it makes my passion explode in a flaming fury even more. I'm glad I can finally hold you in my arms. All my love, your little spy of love.
I'm kind of thinking Jyn Erso also, but I'm almost wondering if maybe she's talking to Krennic.
Oh, wow.
It's not a problem if you don't look up.
And this week we started all off with a discussion about bounty hunters. Which bounty hunter would you least like to find out is hunting you down?
Bosk. He kind of freaks me out. He's really, really tall in that Trandoshan look and is just very intimidating. And I think he'd step on my toes and that would hurt.
Exactly, but the Empire's willingly using him. Yeah.
And Spencer's Online also has some men's boxer shorts as well for $15.99.
Oh, okay. So, I was kind of hoping the Hoth ones would taste like cherry, but
the schnozberries taste like schnozberries, though.
Why not?
The road to Solo rolls on. Here's what is in store for this episode. The Last Jedi is coming home. We have news on the home release of the latest Star Wars film, and we'll let you know when you can get your hands on it in this week's news. Convention season is about to warm up. With that in mind, Taxus will tell you where to find all the Star Wars celebrities in March in another edition of Skystalking. The Scoundrels Book Club is back in session. On this episode, we dive into Han Solo at Star's End, the Legends classic from Brian Daley. Finally, we'll discuss a unique collectible and get to the results of our latest Twitter poll and silence fools. There's your rundown, so let's not waste any more time. This is episode 49 of Starships, Sabers, and Scoundrels.
Let's see. Okay, if I got enough space to put my cape in there, my robe, where are my keys? Oh, there are my keys. Okay. My map. That's right. Okay.
What are you doing?
Huh? Oh, planning.
For what?
For the trip we're taking, Pally. The road to Han Solo.
That's just a metaphor, and we aren't really taking a trip. Is that music playing?
Can't take a trip without some tunes, Dennis.
I thought we weren't going to do show tunes. Oh, that's right. You negotiated that out of the contract.
We're off on the road to Han Solo. Darth Taxus will start to opine.
Hot space opinions, Dennis.
No one's knowing
Where it's going.
we're feeling insecure.
I'll lay you 8 to 5 that we will love Donald Glover.
Yeah, he'll be great. Off on the road to Han Solo. Hang on, everything will be just fine.
That's what I hope at least. I hear this movie's got the warriors biting off their nails.
We'd tell you more, but we would have the spoiler folks hit the rails.
That's true.
We hope you'll all come around. Like a Wikipedia entry, we're Han Solo bound.
Taxus, it's not a real trip. Too late. He's into it. How do I get his attention before the next verse? Okay, this should do it.
Hey, I was singing.
I know. It's just, it's not a real trip.
Well, Can I finish the song?
Well, we have to get the show going.
But I have lyrics. It'll be fast.
Just do it.
Like a Wookiee companion who forsakes his family to fulfill a life debt for reasons yet unknown, or like a bounty hunter who has been tracking you across the whole galaxy to bring you carbon-frozen Java. We're Han Solo bound.
It's going to be a long trip.
Welcome back, low-down good for everything scoundrels. You found your way back to the podcast that has a moral compass just waiting for the planet's magnetic field to flip. I'm your co-host and guy who drives with the headlights always on dim, Darth Taxus, coming to you from the cartography room of my flagship, the Assessor Collector. And with me is my good friend, ready to take the wheel should I doze off, Dennis, the Phantom Menace Keithley. Dennis?
Hello, Taxus. So, Scoundrels, you are probably noticing that we are absent a host today. And let me tell you, it's been one heck of a week. Our schedules just were not lining up between power outages due to weather, internet problems, and various other maladies. We just snuck this in when we could. So, unfortunately, Jay couldn't make it today. Yeah. So we're looking forward to having her back, hopefully, when we cover this upcoming, the most two recent episodes at Rebels. Mm-hmm. All right, but that out of the way, enough podcast business. Let's get on with the show. We got plenty of news to discuss. We're going to get into our book club covering the Brian Daley's Han Solo series and a few other things. So let's do it. We have some important stories to get to in the news. So, Taxus, get us started if you would, please.
I certainly will. The Last Jedi will soon be available on digital and Blu Ray. On March 13th, it arrives via digital format and on Movies Anywhere. Then, on March 27th, it'll be available on demand and on Blu Ray. Some of the bonus features include The Director and the Jedi, a directorial behind-the-scenes featurette, Balance of the Force, the mythology of the Force in The Last Jedi, which I'm really interested in, scene breakdowns for key scenes from the movie, deleted scenes, and an audio commentary from Ryan Johnson. So like I said, I'm really interested in the whole mythology thing. It's I think that hopefully should be a little enlightening. And you and I have discussed before. We're just kind of like, what is happening? But I'm also really interested in the deleted scenes because I kind of want to see if it addresses any of the foibles that people have been taking some issue with.
Yeah, that'll definitely be interesting. I suspect things that people have had issues with were not only cuts, deleted scenes, but there's probably just completely unfinished footage that's not going to be on this disc, and things that may have been axed during the process of filming the movie as well. So that'll be interesting what we get there. It's always interesting. They've announced various other formats you can get. I think Best Buy's got the Steelbook, and Target usually has some bonus edition of it.
Sure.
Yeah, they've always had whatever. Are you just going to get the regular version, or are you going after one of the exclusives? What are you going to do?
I think I've always gone by Target and picked theirs up. So I'll probably just maintain consistency and do that, just because it'd feel weird to me not to.
Sure. I just end up going with the standard Blu-ray version. I think this is coming out on the 4K format as well.
Yeah, this is the first one to be on 4K. That's right.
Yeah, so I'll probably pick up the pack that's got the 4K, the Blu-ray, and then the digital download that comes with it and stuff like that. But as much as I like all the bonus features, I've just found that I don't really watch them more than once. Sometimes I get into the deleted scenes. I'll go back and revisit those at a future date. But so I don't typically get too wrapped up in getting versions that have a whole different set of extras on them.
Yeah.
Well, A, because like I said, I only typically watch them once, and B, at some point they show up on StarWars.com or elsewhere.
That's true.
So it's it's not like it's too hard to come by those.
Yeah.
But.
Well, and the one that my kids and I would watch over and over again would be the joke reels and the funny sketches on that was part of the special, big 6 movie edition one. That was fun. And you know what? I'm not really a big guy into listening to a movie with the audio commentary or watching something with audio commentary. Mm-hmm. But I might do it to this one, Yeah,
I'm with you. I haven't done much with the audio. because if I remember correctly, there wasn't one for The Force Awakens when that initially came out. And
that's
then
right.
they released a different version of that movie on Blu Ray that had JJ's. Am I remembering that correctly?
Yeah, I think you are. Yeah, because that was they made a big special deal about that.
And I wasn't going to buy the movie twice. So, I already had it. I got excited when that came out digitally. I bought a copy of it that way. And then 2 weeks later, I bought it on Blu Ray. So I'm not, that was enough.
Sure.
I'm not going to do it that way again. I'm looking forward to getting this at home because it's been too long since I've seen the movie. It's become a standard practice for me to see it 4 times in the theaters within that first week it gets released, with the intention of going to see it again at least once or twice. It just hasn't happened for The Force Awakens or Rogue One, and so I'm really ready to see this movie again.
Yeah, I was kind of like I was thinking about that too, because I know that. I was thinking, okay, I'm going to sneak back in and catch it one more time, and then just life, got out of the hand. And so all of a sudden, here we are with the release, and wow.
Yeah, well, then, other great movies show up that you get excited about. Drifting away from Star Wars, Black Panther recently has been fantastic, and I've been absorbed with that movie. So it's not like it's just Star Wars and then nothing. There's plenty of things coming out, and look at what's going to happen with Solo. It comes out, Infinity War is right before it, and then we're in the summer movie season. There's going to be a lot of great movies out.
Holy cow. It's just so much. It's like a deluge of movies.
That's kind of it's kind of why I wish they would just leave the Star Wars movies to December releases. I mean, I know that's what they're going to do with Episode 9. Right. And I hope going forward they just keep them there. It just is. I know some people seem to complain that it's it interferes with their holiday plans, but I find I have actually more time then because the kids are already out of school. There aren't summer camps. There aren't, the office is generally closed. And so there's just more opportunities around then. Whereas, in the summer, the kids are out of school, but you still have to work.
But it's funny because to me, like Solo almost feels like a summer break kind of movie. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, just maybe the character is the reason why I feel like that, and not to digress too much into it, but you know what I'm saying? But I understand. I agree with you. Yeah, you definitely have more time in December for me, to do it. But yeah.
Yeah, well, we definitely got off on a tangent there. So what else is going on in the news?
Well, as with every Star Wars movie, Solo, a Star Wars story, will arrive with plenty of tie-in books and comics. EU.com, not EU. EW.com recently posted a gallery of more than 20 new books supporting the new movie. Some of the standouts include Last Shot by Danny Jose Older. I think that's Jose. And that's a novel focusing on Han and Lando. Most Wanted by Ray Carson, a young adult book featuring Han and Kira from their teen years. So right there, that kind of tells us something, doesn't it? Lando, Double or Nothing, a Marvel comic miniseries written by Rodney Barnes. The Art of Solo, a Star Wars story, and I'm really into those books now, by Phil Shostak. And Solo, the official guide by Pablo Hidalgo, which is another one that I'm going to definitely love picking up.
Yeah, I'll be getting all of these 5, definitely. The Last Shot is the Han and
I know that's hard to say. I almost did it. Said it like that.
But yeah, apparently it's going to look at them at at least 3 different points in their lives together. I guess like one around Solo, one around maybe Return of the Jedi, and then one after that, something like that. So that should be interesting. And then the Kira character is intriguing, so I'm looking forward to Most Wanted as well. Right. And then you and I are both big into the comics, so Lando Double or Nothing should be fun, especially since it looks like it's going to focus on Lando and L337. In the events leading up to the Solo movie. And then, as you said, the art of books that they do for the Star Wars movies are all fantastic. So those are definitely must picks up. But these 5 that you mentioned, I'm planning on getting all of those as they come out for my collection.
Yeah, I'll definitely end up reading Last Shot. I might, as I've done in the past, rely on you just to give me the rundown on the young adult read. And then of course, the other 2 come out after the movie comes out. But I don't know. I hope that, and I feel like probably this isn't going to be the case, but I'm thinking, a lot of these stories have to do with a couple of the characters that we're going to see in the movie together doing stuff in the past. And that would make sense if you're putting a, quote, crew together. Then you would want to use people that maybe you've worked with before and are reliable, right? You don't want to jump in. But I'm hoping they don't do anything to where it's like people had a little issue with the Last Jedi, where you have to rely on the external source material in order to get these people.
Well, I think that's kind of a harsh way of putting it, to be honest with you. I mean, it's you don't actually have to rely on any material. You can ignore all the material you want that sort of comes out around The Last Jedi.
Oh, I agree with you. Yes.
And the thing is that with any one of these movies, if you read some of the other material, it may enhance your viewing, but I don't think I don't think it's required reading for any of these. I mean, you could do, there was the book, the collection of short novellas that was put out for The Force Awakens. That enhances your reading or your viewing of that movie. It's not required. The Cobalt Squadron and things like that for The Last Jedi, while they may enhance your viewing, none of it's required for that. I mean, it doesn't really provide any critical background in there. If anything, you might say, for instance, the DJ Most Wanted one-shot that Marvel put out, I would like to have seen that flavor of Canto Bight more in the movie.
Okay.
There was nothing in there that was required to understand that was going on in the movie.
Right.
Quite frankly, I think the Canto Bight collection of stories didn't enhance anything for me with the movies. It was almost completely aside and separate. I think if you went back and looked closer, you would find those characters in the movie, but there was nothing that happened in that book that is essential to your understanding of the movie. And
and that's cool to me. I mean, I'm just saying, and I know I agree with you that I didn't necessarily need to go read all this different source material to enjoy the movie and try and get what's going on. But you and I were kind of, inside baseball, right?
Sure.
Like we're, So to people on the outside looking in who occasionally tune in whenever Star Wars piques their interest for the season, you might say, I think that was one of the things that left a lot of them kind of bewildered. Like, and we've talked about this in our recent episode, Scoundrels. So if you want to go back and, find out exactly what we've discussed and what we've basically come to discover about it, go back and listen to the past couple months.
Yeah, well, we did an entire series of Last Jedi episodes, starting with, I believe it was episode 44.
Yep.
Which was our initial reactions, and then we broke down basically 3 or 4 characters thereafter, the most important one. All right. Well, there's your rundown on some of the books, and I'm looking forward to all of these. But the other ones that I didn't list there's a lot of IDW comics that are a little bit more geared towards younger readers. So those are going to focus more on a younger Han and Chewbacca. Those I'm going to kind of wait and see what the reaction is before I pick them up. I would be interested in picking them up. And then there's the usual young reader type things where it's more of a step 1, step 2, step 3 type reading bit, and then there's a golden book or 2 listed as well, which just aren't my cup of tea.
Oh, I actually love those.
Do you really?
Yeah,
okay,
it's weird. I don't know. I bought my mom like that last Christmas. That big compendium of the little golden books. It's like it was thick because she was a reading teacher when I was growing up, and so she used those a lot, especially in English as a second language. I think that would be helpful, but I wouldn't necessarily do it for my own entertainment. But I know it's kind of a weird thing for me. It's like Pavlov's dog.
Sure. I mean, to each their own. I don't have any criticism of that. It's it goes back just like when we're talking about Forces of Destiny.
Right.
Not my thing, but I'm glad that it's out there because I think Star Wars is something that's for everybody, and if that's someone's entering into the fandom, then fantastic. They should definitely have different ways of accessing this material. So
the one about Sith Lords was brave. I'm just saying.
Alrighty then. Okay, well, there's a few other stories that just don't warrant quite as much discussion. But first up, Jon Favreau is confirmed he is voicing a character in Solo, and it is the 4-armed alien that is seen in the trailer. It looks like he's sitting down at a gun station, maybe. I don't know. If you go back and watch the trailer, you can't miss him. Also, if you are a Funko fan and have been a subscriber to Smuggler's Bounty, well, the whole subscription service is about to change. Wow. In fact, it won't be a subscription service any longer. Although the boxes aren't going away, they're becoming an exclusive for an unnamed retailer after September 2018. So, I was considering not renewing my subscription anyway. Not that I
Yeah.
have any problem with it. It's just that I think I've got all the Funko I need at this point.
Sure.
And so, but I do think this is a bummer for people that enjoyed that. It was fun having those boxes show up at the house, and then my kids and I would open it up and look at what was in there and talk about it. And so I'm not going to go out of my way to go to a retailer to find these things. It's just that's just not worth it to me. But,
well, if you want, Dennis, I've actually started my own service of sending Taxus's mystery boxes out to people. Would you like me to put you on the subscription list, or?
Moving on.
Okay.
Mark Hamill is getting a well-deserved and long overdue star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
How about that?
George Lucas and Harrison Ford will co-MC the event with someone else, I can't remember, on March 8th.
Wow.
Okay. I had to admit, I was surprised you didn't already have one.
Yeah.
I really thought if I had gone to Hollywood, I would have found him there. So this was surprising to me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you think about his body of work, though, even though it's sizable and it's wonderful and great, I mean, has it really been what you would consider kind of mainstream, sort of like Carrie Fisher's work was?
I didn't write the number down, but there's a couple thousand stars on the Walk of Fame.
Yeah.
And my understanding was that you did not necessarily have to have some enormous body of work or whatever. He starred in 3 of the biggest movies of all time.
Sure. Yeah.
And
you and I
would
agree.
have thought that is by itself would have got him onto the Hollywood Walk of Fame, which wouldn't have taken this long.
Right.
But congratulations to Mark Hamill.
Yeah,
it's a long overdue honor.
Very much.
But speaking of the Jedi Master, Hamill will also be a presenter at the 2018 Academy Awards.
Wow.
He joins Oscar Isaac, Laura Dern, and Kelly Marie Chan as the Star Wars alumni presenting at the award show on March 4th. So he's having a busy few days.
Yeah.
There. And we've talked about this in the past. I don't usually sit down and have my eyes glued to the Oscars, but I typically have it on when they're on, and I'm doing other things and stuff. So this is just another reason to have it on, I suppose.
What is that tonight?
No, March 4th.
Oh, March 4th. Okay, that's March 4th. So 'cause I was thinking, wow, I might want to watch that. Wait a minute. Maybe I can't, but I'm not really a big award ceremony person unless there's something specifically in it that's going to catch my attention and make me really, really want to tune in. And this did it, so I'm really going to want to see him. Yeah, and everybody.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And finally, in some episode 9 news, J.J. Abrams announced on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert that he has a script for episode 9 and that it is scheduled to begin filming at the end of July.
Awesome.
And that is all he told us. So, fantastic. They're going to get started soon. And of course, that movie is going to come out in December 2019. And I don't know that there's much else to say about it beyond that.
Wow. Man, we're about to enter a period of darkness, Dennis.
I don't think so. One thing I didn't put in the notes that you texted me about earlier was that, Lucasfilm just registered a trademark for Star Wars Resistance. So who knows what that is? Okay. We got lots of comics. We got lots of books coming up. A couple episodes ago, we talked about the slot position for a producer or director for whatever Star Wars or some Lucasfilm animated series, which is probably going to be a Star Wars thing.
Sure.
We've got the Disney streaming service coming up, and they've already announced there's multiple live action projects in development for that. We've got 2 different series, one being steered by Rian Johnson and another from the guys from Game of Thrones. There is a ton of Star Wars content on the horizon. The difference between this and the infamous Dark Times is back then we had no idea what was coming and when we'd see it ever again. While we don't necessarily have all the dates right now, we know a whole lot of content that's coming. Granted, these projects sometimes fall to the wayside. They just don't work out. We're still all waiting on 1313, that video game that was coming out, and then it never happened. And there's been other projects that just don't happen. Star Wars Detours. That was essentially done and never came out. So we'll see.
Well, you are the spark that lit the fire that kept hope alive in me for this next year and a half, Dennis.
Well, I'm glad I could be there for you, Taxus.
Thank you,
all right. That will do it for this week's news. More on these stories and others can be found on such websites as retrozap.com, Jedi News, Fantha Tracks, Coffee with Kenobi, and theforce.net.
Banded together across across the television dial are the 4 greatest superhero podcasts on the internet. Green Justice and Arrow podcast, Scarlet Velocity, a Flash podcast, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Case Files, and Terrigen Dreams and Inhumans podcast. Join Super Friends Jovial J and Jedi Schwa weekly as they provide commentary and discussion on your favorite heroes. Only on RetroZap.com.
I feel like we're being watched.
I am wondering, why are you here?
I'm looking for someone.
Looking? Found someone you have, I would say.
All right, well, I said it in the rundown, but convention season is almost upon us, and things are definitely heating up. So, Taxus, where can we find all the Star Wars celebrities next month?
Well, here, there, and everywhere, and starting off in the first weekend of March 1st to the 4th, at Emerald City Comic Con, Seattle, Washington. We've got Katie Cook, who is an artist and most famous for OB-123.
Right, and she's also did the Clone Wars webcomics, and she's done an awful lot of artwork for various Star Wars children's books, too.
Oh, yeah. I like her stuff. I saw it, and I didn't really know much about her, and then once I started looking through her webpage, I was like, oh, yeah, I really like it. Next, we got same place, Brian Herring. He's BB-8, of course. Andrew Craft and Chris Malloy, who are authors for Ultimate Lego Star Wars. Then some other authors, Chuck Wendig, Delilah Dawson, John Jackson Miller, too. So that's fun.
Yeah, good cross-section of the Star Wars novel universe.
And but I think the most appealing draw to this convention is going to be Mini Boba Fett. What? It's Boba Fett, only Mini.
Okay, honest question. I saw that in the notes. What is Mini Boba Fett?
It's Boba Fett, but just smaller.
Like, this is a cosplayer, or what are we talking about?
Yeah, it's like Boba Fett, only little.
Okay. Go on.
I mean, yeah, check it out, though. It's pretty funny. It's pretty awesome. I like it a lot. So, same weekend at KawaiiCon in Honolulu, Hawaii. We've got Courtney Taylor, who did some voices for Star Wars The Old Republic, and Carrie Walgren. Also did some voices for The Old Republic and Letta Termond in the Clone Wars. And also she's the voice of Jessica in Rick and Morty, a show that I'm really into.
And she is also a fabulous follow on Twitter. So definitely check her out. She posts a lot of interesting things there. It's just fun to follow her there, so I highly recommend that.
Yeah, check that out. Then same weekend, WhimsyCon, Denver, Colorado. We've got Tawny Davis, who is a freelance artist, did some work with Star Wars games. Same weekend, Virginia Comic Con, Richmond, Virginia. Hey, who's going to be there? The Beltway Banthas.
Wow. So check out Steven and Swara. See what they have to say.
Fellow Retro Zappers. Yeah, it's kind of fun. They like doing that.
Tell them Dennis and Taxus sent you, and when you get dirty looks, just giggle and sit down.
Same weekend, Comic City Comic Con, Murfreesboro, Tennessee. There's not really anybody there, but this was kind of a cool attraction. So you get a free carded Star Wars figure with the price of admission. That
is pretty cool. Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
Next weekend, March 9th through 11th in Lexington Comic Con in Lexington, Kentucky, we have Ian McDermott.
Whoa.
Hey, Billy D. Whoa! Awesome. Dave Barclay, puppeteer for in The Empire Strikes Back. Paul Brook, who's the Rancor Keeper. Then we've also got Femi Taylor, who is Ula in Return of the Jedi as well. Tim Rose, who is Akbar. Angus McInnes, who was Gold Leader. Am I right about that?
Yeah, he was at the Battle of Yavin.
Yeah. David Ankrum, who was actually the American who did the voice of Wedge in A New Hope. Garrick Hagen, who was Biggs. And, this is fun, Corey Williams. He's a good dude. He was actually in Return of the Jedi. Yeah.
Isn't that Billy D. Williams' son?
It sure is. But
okay.
Corey's a great guy, and recommend. It's worth it getting known. Plus a fabulous bassist too.
Is he?
Yeah. Oh yeah, okay. It's amazing. Then we've got Tom Kane, who is the voice, of course, of Yoda in the Clone Wars, and also the narrator, if I remember correctly. Brian Herring is going to be here again. Man, he is really hard at work, isn't he? And Roxy the Rancor. That's fun. That was at Anaheim, I think, or
Roxy travels, showing up at various celebrations and does travel around the country to various Comic Cons as well.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. And we've got Michael Carter, who of course was Bib Fortuna, Gerald Holm, who was the Quarren and Mon Calamari, various in Return of the Jedi. And then last, we've got Colin Cantwell, who was apparently the designer of the actual X-Wing, TIE Fighter, and Death Star models and such.
Okay.
So, yeah, neat. Same weekend in Madison, Wisconsin, we've got MightyCon. And there is Mike Barron of Star Wars comics fame.
Yeah, more specifically, he worked on the adaptation of Heir to the Empire.
Oh, cool. All right.
Yeah.
Same weekend in Manahawkin, New Jersey, we've got the Manahawkin Comic Book Show, and Matt Butic is there. He's the Tops artist. And next weekend after that, we've got AllCon on March 15th to the 18th in Addison, Texas. Derek Arnold, who was a creature actor in The Force Awakens and Rogue One. He played Pow in Rogue One, for example. Same weekend in Montgomery, Alabama, at River Region Comic Con, we've got Brian Silverbacks, who is a Tops artist as well. An Albany Comic and Toy Show in Albany, New York. Same weekend, Mark McKenna, who's Dark Horse Star Wars comics. I think he did The Purge.
Yes.
Okay, and that was an excellent series, too. And we also have Christian St. Pierre, who is another sketch card artist. Remember? Atlanta Comic Con, Atlanta, Georgia. We've got Dexter Vines, right? And he's recently become more active. Is that right? With Star Wars? With the Marvel Star Wars comics?
Yeah, I'm not terribly familiar with Dexter, but that does seem correct.
Yeah. Next weekend, March 23rd, 25th in Anaheim, California, we've got WonderCon. We've got Ryan Benjamin and Jody Hauser, both affiliated with Star Wars comics work.
Yeah, now Ryan Benjamin, he was the penciler for the Star Wars Infinities comic for Return of the Jedi.
Cool.
And Star Wars Empire, Volume 1.
Okay.
So there's some work to check out. That Return of the Jedi Infinities was what if Leia had fallen to the dark side?
Yeah, I think I've got that.
That was a pretty interesting story.
Mm-hmm.
And Jody Hauser, of course, did Rogue One and Thrawn, and those are both really good adaptations.
And then same weekend in Peterborough, United Kingdom, we've got the Peterborough Comic Con. Now here's some cool ones. We've got Pam Rose, who played Lisa Surum in A New Hope.
Oh yeah,
yeah, and I remember first time I got that card in the Tops app, I was like, who is this?
Who? Yeah.
I was like, I don't remember seeing her anywhere, and everybody was like, oh, come on, she's all over the place. But yeah, so that's a kind of a cool find. Then we've also got Chris Bunn, who was a stormtrooper in all three of the original trilogy, and he was also an astronaut in New Hope in the Cantina scene. And Nick Joseph, which this is kind of a cool one. He's Major Arhol Hextrophin in A New Hope. He's the one who held the medals behind Carrie Fisher up there on the die.
Well, how about that? Mm-hmm. I don't think I've ever heard of Nick Joseph showing up at a con, but that doesn't mean it hasn't happened, but this is the first time I can recall.
Yeah. And he's a Major Arhol there.
I see what you did there.
Wow. Same weekend, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Philly Comics and Cosplay Day. We've got Dana Snyder, who is a voice actor, but also was Graballa the Hutt in the Clone Wars. And I think he played the Penguin on the Batman series, right?
May have. I don't know.
Okay. Then same weekend in Dayton, Ohio, Gem City Comic Con, we've got Joe Caroni. He's a very good Star Wars artist.
That is a huge Star Wars artist. Okay. He's done work for Star Wars Insider, the Empire series, the role-playing game, and the trading cards. His work is showing up at various Star Wars celebrations. He had a great print at Star Wars Celebration Orlando featuring Jen Erso. It was in the running for the prints that I was going to pick up. I ended up doing something else. But if you want to see some great Star Wars art, I would definitely check out Joe Caroni and Dayton.
And rounding it up in Greenville, South Carolina, same weekend, we got South Carolina Comic Con. I don't know how they're going to fit the whole state in the auditorium, but I guess they'll try. I've got Laura Martin, who is a colorist with Star Wars Marvel comics, the new ones, not the old ones. And you're up to date for this month.
Okay, Scoundrels. Well, Taxus has laid it out for you. So Head on out to your cons. Again, I would check the websites for all these cons, make sure that there has been any postponements, as they like to call them. But if you do get to meet one of these celebrities, we'd love to hear about it. Feature it in Silence Full. So email us at sqpod@retrozap.com. The Scoundrels Book Club is back. Since we are on the road to Solo, we promised to look back at some classic Solo stories, and this week we get it started with Solo at Star's End by Brian Daley. This was from the original expanded universe of novels and was released in 1979. Yeah. And I guess we could sound a spoiler alert, but
all right.
Because since we're really coming up on 40 years from this one, I recommend reading it. But here we go. This is our summary. Han Solo and Chewbacca are scoundrels and smugglers operating in the corporate sector. After escaping an impound and delivering supplies, they realize they need repairs and a way to bypass the corporate security authorities' waiver list. However, the man that can do this has gone missing. Therefore, they make a deal with his daughter to smuggle out some people on a CSA world, that's the corporate sector authority, I'm abbreviating it that way, well, in exchange for the work they need. Along the way, Han is forced to overcome his self-centric views and work towards liberating individuals captured and held prisoner by the CSA after Chewbacca himself is taken prisoner. Han's adventures take him to the prison complex at Star's End in the Midas system as he and his friends rescue their loved ones from a citadel inadvertently launched into space by their somewhat clumsy infiltration. So let's, I'm not sure where to begin with this book. What is, in 60 seconds or so, what is your overall response to this novel, Taxus?
I actually really loved it. I feel like this was one of the best, portrayals of who Han Solo was to me back, as a kid and, what we know. Young Han Solo, unencumbered Han Solo, it's just he and Chewie against the galaxy kind of thing. And I easily, when I was reading the lines, I could hear Harrison Ford's voice so easily in it, and the way that Brian Daley portrayed him is just, I guess you would say, the syntax, the cadence of the lines. It really felt like Han Solo,
Yeah, I gotta say, the book captured my attention right away. I thought it was some of the most Star Wars sounding content out there.
Yes.
The way that Han and Chewie evaded, what was his name? Pluvo, two for one.
Yeah.
They were making this delivery of stuff to him, and they kind of got double crossed, so they had to get out of the cantina, then they had to get out of town, they had to get the ship out of impound, and then they're arriving on a world to deliver these weapons. They had to do some fancy flying.
Yeah, that was cool.
And
too.
so it all seemed very Star Wars. And then Jessa is the name of the daughter that they're trying to make this deal with.
Sure,
and as they are making this deal with her to get the repairs they want, to get this bypass device for the waiver list, they get attacked by a squad of corporate sector authority ships. And that's why I keep saying CSA. It's easier to say. And then even then, I felt like you were reading a scene that seemed right at home in any Star Wars movie.
Yeah, and I thought that was great because even back then, in the opening when Han's trying to avoid the CSA picket ship and trying to make it to this planet to deliver the weapons, I believe, if I remember correctly, he sheared off the radar dish that was part of the Falcon. And so that leads us to believe that the radar dish we see in the New Hope Falcon is the replaced one that Jessa gives him, which is more robust and more of a military, variant. Right. And I thought that was a nice touch too, because Han's trying to get out of that, get off that planet, the CSA planet where he's meeting Pluvo, and they're like, nah, you can't take your ship. Apparently, you've got way too much hot tech to be just some poor legitimate, businessman. You must be doing something else, or you've got to get waivers, And I thought, what an interesting concept, waivers. So, yeah, I really loved it. That was great.
Yeah. If there's a part that I kind of had a problem with, it was more of the end of the novel, simply because as I said in the description, they get to this prison facility, and it's something of a citadel at Star's End. It's called Star's End. And they are trying to figure out how to get in there to rescue Chewbacca, there's a whole squad of people, and we'll talk about them in a second, to rescue all their loved ones and friends. And there's a bunch of people that are being held prisoner by the CSA, and they're being held in stasis and then kind of experimented on, et cetera, et cetera. And in the process, they have a couple droids, and they slice in and they deactivate some protection around a reactor, and then an explosion happens and the whole citadel gets launched up into space, and then of course it reaches its apex and begins crashing back to the planet. And so they have to figure out how to get everyone off the thing. That seemed a bit over the top.
Okay, yeah, it felt a little video gamey to me.
Yeah, and there was a lot. I really thought the action in this book was fantastic.
Sure.
There's the two droids. There's Bollux and Blue Max. Blue Max is essentially a computer core, but Bollux is this older, out of date model droid that when they get to Midas, they're posing as entertainers, and the administrator for this facility was expecting a combat droid to fight his executioner droid.
Yeah, Mark 10. Yeah.
In the arena, and he grows impatient. Han's posing as a trick shooter. They've got these two characters with a Mater and Paca, which are a feline species. And
Triani, I think was the name.
Exactly, yeah. And so they're posing as dancers and acrobats and things like that. And while it's entertaining for the administrator's wife, he just wants to see the droids fight. And I thought the description of the combat between the executioner droid and Box, that was pretty cool. That seemed very, very Star Wars and was worth reading. But it's one of my criticisms have been of a lot of expanded universe books has been the lengths that they'll go to try and create traps for our favorite characters.
Okay.
And that sometimes it is the why are you doing that? It's the why can't you set up a great ambush, or why can you not then they have to have them he grabbed a barrel of nuts off the counter and threw it in this and caused a short circuit there, which unexpectedly surprised someone like this. It's like, could you picture that happening on screen?
Right.
Is the thing. And if you can't, then maybe you aren't really telling a Star Wars stories, because and that's harsh. It's for me,
but no,
Star
that's
Wars
a point. Yeah, it's got to feel like it.
Right. Star Wars is foremost has been a visual medium, and that's why I think the movies and the television shows tend to take precedence when we think of things that are in our canon.
Sure.
And maybe the comic books would be up there. There's a lot of great novels out there as well. But sometimes it's like when I can't visualize this, this being a captivating scene in a movie, then I have a harder time with it working for me as a Star Wars story.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that was probably the only. I mean, it made me giggle, thinking that this whole thing just shot off into space, and I guess I was trying to get my head around, was it a lower gravity kind of non-atmospheric planetoid that Star's End was on, and that's why maybe it was easier for it to have reacted the way it did, but then on the interior, I mean, basically Han's trying to get everybody saved. All these people come to find out that were abducted by the corporate sector authority, who were basically political dissidents, you might say. They were being released from these stasis tubes, which I'd like to come back to the stasis tube idea later. And then Han's trying to figure out how to get them all off Star's End, because he realizes this sucker's coming back down. And he can't see anything. He has no idea where they're at or how close to the ground they're at. But there's this whole firefight that's going on inside the Citadel. And I'm thinking, okay, well, the artificial gravity is probably still in place. So no matter what the Star's End, no matter how it's oriented, they still feel like it's right side up. You know what I mean?
Sure.
That whole thing. So, that's what felt like kind of like a video game to me. It was like, almost like Battlefront 2. We need to get off this sucker before it blows. You know what I mean? And you have no idea what's happening, but you just hit milestones,
Yeah. Well, again, I think one of the standout thing from this book for me is the action scenes that Daly managed to put together. I think he wrote them very well, especially the space combat. the Falcon's escape, the encounter with the CSA fighters, let's address the stasis thing real quick, and then we'll come back to some other stuff. What is it you want to talk about the stasis tubes?
Well, I think that Brian Daley really created some concepts and ideas with this novel, and probably will find in the other two novels, that survived not only past the EU purge, you know what I mean, but just even into the EU, the Z95 Headhunter. I remember when I was a kid reading about that in the first time in the Star Wars source book, I was like, wait a minute, where'd this come from? I had no idea it was from this book. The stasis tubes. Point. The stasis tubes, that where have we seen the plot where Han Solo needed to help break a bunch of people out of stasis tubes recently?
Han Solo needed to bring a bunch of people
in the Aftermath books. On Kashyyyk.
Yeah. I wonder if Wendig borrowed that from him or not. But were they in stasis, or were they? Yeah, I couldn't remember exactly on that one.
I think they were in stasis. Yeah, it was like some sort of some whether they were. I think that they were out of it basically, which is how they were able to manipulate them. To become double agents.
Yeah, I guess. Well, I guess maybe Daley introduced it in Star Wars. A stasis idea, I think, is something that's been kind of prevalent in science fiction for a long time.
Sure.
But one of the things that popped out to me is that the administrator on this Star's End, and I'll think of his name in a second.
Vice Prex Hirkin.
Hirkin, yeah. He had an enforcer that was an alien species that was this reptile-looking thing, whose name was Ul-Ra-Shan. I know, I can't remember what species they said he was in the book, but in my mind, he was a Trandoshan.
Right.
I was thinking Bosk the entire time I read that.
Yeah.
That was the other thing that this book did so well, is it created these alien races. I don't know that we've seen them anyplace else, but the ones that there was the aliens that Han delivered the weapons to at the beginning. A Triani
is actually in the new canon. I discovered this just when I was doing some source reading, that they worked a Triani in the background in the Cassian Andor one shot.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I missed that. I'll have to go back and look for it.
Yeah.
But again, so we got the Triani, these cat-like creatures. We got, Ul-Ra-Shan, and a number of other aliens that are in this book. And then, just the great use of droids in this between Bollocks and Blue Max. So it's the elements are all there. I think what's really lacking is the Empire and some sort of a Force presence in this book. But other than that, you've got the ships, you got the droids, you got the smuggling, you got the blaster fights. It comes off. It's not exactly unlike what you would kind of expect out of a Solo movie.
Yeah. It's weird because I was wondering if he had anybody in his ear saying, hey, in Empire Strikes Back, we're going to have stuff that looks like this. We're going to have like the concept of the big tripod repeating blaster. Mm-hmm. That was used prevalently. And I was like, oh, cool. I'm like, wait a minute, 79? Well, okay, so maybe he got to take a look at some of the sketch work, some of the concepts going into it. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, like I said, in my head, I cast Ul-Ra-Shan as a Trandoshan, and then I looked him up on Wikipedia later. I was like, well, that's not a Trandoshan.
Yeah, it
looks more like a little dinosaur,
like a snake with legs. Yeah.
Yeah, and they showed up in other places in the legends. But let's talk about Han himself for a little bit.
Sure.
He starts the book very much as the character you get to meet in A New Hope at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
He is the very much, like, I care about one person, me. And he's worried about his credits and getting paid, and he does not. Now, it's the same thing. He's trying to hide under this gruff exterior his heart of gold, which is the, he does want to do the right thing, and he does want to help out people. But he gets pulled into it. You have to break down his resistance, and then finally he does the right thing. Like when he delivers those weapons, he tells, they are trying to appeal to his his sense of justice. And he's like, stop right there. I don't know you. You don't know me. I'm just delivering. This is a job. I delivered your weapons. I don't know about your cause or anything. And then, I think Chewie gives him a look, and, they have to sit there for a while. And then he's like, okay, look, here's what you want to do. And he shows them how to use the weapon and gives them a tactic about when to fire, how to confuse the corporate sector authority.
Yeah.
So he's not like just delivering these weapons and then throwing them to the wolves. He does kind of impart some things. And, once Chewbacca gets captured, then, it took a bit of Chewbacca getting captured for him to go all in on this rescue effort. And I guess we've kind of glossed over that, but we'll get to that in a second. But what did you think about Han's portrayal?
Well, I thought it was very accurate. Like I said, it felt like him, look, I don't want to get drawn into this, and I'm not in it for you, I'm not in it for that, I'm just in it for the cash. And but he just can't help himself, and and he's probably and he's not too wrong, in my opinion, for saying, hey, I don't want to know the specifics. Look, we don't want to become pen pals, so to speak. It's safer that way for everybody. And so of course, Chewie is the big moral compass standing there, big hairy moral compass. But I thought that again, just the way he was portrayed, the way he would react. I mean, he wasn't. Well, let me say this. Okay, I loved how he acted around the droids first, and then eventually came around to like them, like the two droids. So in fact, he understood why later Blue Max would be so dedicated to Bollocks, because he would actually, Blue Max, he related it to he and Chewie, they were almost two different types of the same being, but yet, they just were fiercely dedicated to each other. Which, on a side note, by the way, the book, the droid's name had to be changed for the UK release. Did you know that? Oh,
I can see why.
Yes, yeah. So because
what did they change it to for the UK release?
I can't remember, but they had to change the name because it would not have made it past the censors.
Right. The thing with Han Solo is that, again, he starts off very much as the scoundrel type of a presence, the same guy we meet at the New Hope, which is, I'm not in it for your rebellion, I'm in it for one thing, the money.
Right.
And he ends up as this character who is, his conscience gets the better of him, and Chewbacca has a lot to do with that. Chewbacca got captured, and that's his best friend in the entire galaxy. Mm-hmm. And I kind of felt that he became more the guy that we knew in Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi.
Okay.
Which seemed a little weird because, this book takes place before A New Hope. So it's like he has a regression.
Couple of years.
Yeah. So we have some sort of regression in his personality. The scoundrel that's in it for himself, who becomes, whose good heart gets the better of him by the end of this book. He and Jessa are kind of an item at the end of this book.
Yeah.
They're snuggling up and, and walking off at the end of it. And then, when we get back to New Hope, he's back to this, I'm not in it for your rebellion. It's me. And so, I'm just interested to see what's going to happen in the next two books to maybe get us back to that point.
But, it's funny because that kind of makes that whole scene where after Luke takes off and he says, hey, Luke, may the Force be with you. And he starts loading up and Chewie's just looking at me. He's like, what?
I know what I'm doing.
I know what I'm doing. It kind of makes it kind of stand out a little bit more. Go ahead. Well, one of the things that I didn't feel like really fit with him, I don't know so there's a part in the book, they meet up with somebody who's basically setting him on this quest, kind of the Obi-Wan Kenobi character, so to speak. What was his name? Reckon. That's it. Reckon. And Reckon gets him everything he needs for his ship to be street legal, so to speak. And he then leaves with Solo and a few of the characters, the Triani, and then Reckon has somebody that he's worked with. And all these people have lost people to the corporate sector authorities' missing persons program, you might say.
Sure.
So, but then when he's on the ship, Han Solo finds Reckon murdered. And Reckon leaves him the message that he discovers where everybody's kept at, which is, of course, Star's End.
Yeah, it's on his data pad, which has been damaged.
Yeah, and so now Han knows he's got a murderer on the ship, and which kind of reminded me of the Han Solo miniseries of the comic.
Yes.
And So when he discovers who the murderer is, he ends up dealing with him. And I don't know. Did that really feel like Han Solo?
Well, there's two parts to that scene. And let's talk about both of them. The first one I thought was ingenious because it was what was it? The planet was something like -7 was what, or on the data pad.
Yes,
I'm gonna get that wrong. Was it 7 or 6 or it doesn't matter.
I think it was
we'll
7.
Just say 7. And he tells the first guy whose name is I think
Trom.
Trom
Or Torm.
He goes,
Torm.
I want you to look up some aspect of -6.
Yeah.
And then he tells Ater -8 and Kaka -9. I may get it wrong, but the point being that he gave them all the wrong planet. And then when they all did their research and they all had a meeting and they sat down, Paka and Ater came back with nothing because there was no information on those planets.
Sure.
And then in the database, but Trom actually used -7 because he knew that's where they were going to go because he murdered Reckon. And so that was a very clever, very scoundrel-like way of going about solving that. I love that part. Now, what you're talking about is that Trom goes to get away and he runs down a passage of the Falcon right into the airlock.
Yeah.
and then Han flushes him out into space. I struggled with that a little bit. I couldn't decide if that fit with Han maybe in this time period or not at all. But it was very cold-blooded, to say the least.
Well, it was kind of Han shot first, a little bit.
That's true.
Yeah,
that is true.
I guess.
But it's not like Trom had a blaster on him at the moment.
Right.
Trom was completely at his mercy in that airlock.
Yeah.
And
although he did try to kill him.
Well, he did. And I guess the other thought is, what was Han supposed to do in this regard? It's not like he could keep the guy prisoner in the Falcon for long, especially if they ended up on, when they got to Star's End. I mean, you would obviously have this problem. That being said, do you kill the guy? Flush him out into the cold of space and let him die, or what? I don't know. You can make an argument that it works, and you can make an argument that it doesn't. And I hate to be wishy-washy about it, but it definitely seemed a bit brutal.
It's a hard element in the book to really kind of reconcile, I think. And I don't know. So maybe that's part of the growth too.
Right. Well, we're getting close to the end of our discussion here. One last thing I wanted to address is this corporate sector authority.
Yeah.
In many ways, they were the stand-in, I should say, for the Empire. They've got prisoners. They're mistreating their prisoners. It's kind of they are the dominant presence in this corporate sector, which is a little weird. I'm not sure why the Empire wouldn't be around to enforce all these things. But what did you think of them?
I liked it. Again, like you said, there's not a force element. There's not the Empire, but I still felt like there was this oppression, granted a free oppression, you might say, but still kind of this presence nonetheless, there existing. And they're not the Empire, but they exist at the behest of the Empire. And if you think about it, okay, you've got a sector of space that's probably a little more tame than the others. And why not outsource, so to speak, the security, but they still were part of the Empire and were subject to the Empire, of course,
Yeah, I gotta say, I mean, when I was reading the book and you would hear the descriptions of I can't remember exactly how they described all the sectors, the average corporate sector authority guard or trooper in this thing, but I mentally imposed a stormtrooper in their place. It was again, I was just kind of researching some of the stuff before we recorded all this, and I looked and I saw the description of their fighters, and they describe them as something different than a TIE fighter, but in my mind there was, we've seen all kinds of different TIE fighters now between Rogue One and what's on Rebels with the TIE Defenders and things. I still had something in my head that looked a bit like a TIE fighter, and whoever it was that came up with a picture for him for Wikipedia that was not a TIE fighter, not at all.
Yeah.
But they do have a very much an Imperial feel, and for all intents and purposes, they might as well have been the Empire for the way that they kind of had govern this sector with an iron fist.
Yeah, and they did all in the name of profit, but they did.
Right.
And so, yeah. Okay, I liked him as a big baddie. And I think we're going to see more of the CSA in the future, if I'm not mistaken.
Probably so. Let's kind of wrap this up. You have any final thoughts you want to share about this book?
Yeah, I went into it kind of not expecting much, to be honest with you. Because, it's like, whatever, it's probably going to be crazy, because it was right after A New Hope, right? But more and more, I just realized this is one of those core foundational base principles of a book that was released during that time period that I feel like a lot of the things we've come to love about Star Wars is based on. Brian Daley really broke new ground with this, and he did such a good job of capturing that feeling. I've told you before, like, to me, part of the feeling of a Star Wars story is that you've got three primary locations, right? You've got the opening kind of planet that they're on or whatever. You got the middle section planet they're on or traveling or something like that. You got the third act, right? And it didn't necessarily follow that per se, but that didn't really distract me, because all the other great Star Wars feelings were there for me. So,
right. Yeah. It's one of those things where I wondered if this book had been written a little bit later, if by chance it would have had, some different elements in there, like instead of the reptilian species being what it was, if it would have been Bosk, or maybe there would have been a bounty hunter or something like that in there. It seems I think it was a really great story that didn't have the underlying infrastructure of a expanded Legends universe around it. Yeah. So I think it's something that if it had been written 20 years later, it would have, because it would have been fit. I don't want to say it didn't fit in. It would have had a slightly different detail to it, with who they were fighting and how and what was going on with the rest of the Legends universe that grew up around it.
Well, and that's a great final point, because if you think about it, at this point, we're still probably trying to figure out some of what the Empire is to a certain extent. So what better way to avoid stepping on the creator's toes with what he's doing with the next movies than to pick an Empire-like setting, but have it be a different organization,
Right. Yeah. Well, and so, but overall, this was not a book that I'd heard a whole lot about when you talk about classic Legends novels. And so I was very pleasantly surprised with how good it was and how much I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I'm not really going to give it a concrete grade. To me, it's something like A-B+ novel. It's very enjoyable, definitely worth the read. It's quick. It's less than 200 pages.
Yeah, 186 pages. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a pretty quick read to get through. With that, next month at our second show for March, we'll be talking about Han Solo's Revenge, which is the second book in the trilogy. I have not read this one either, so this will be my first time, and I hope all of our Scoundrels will tune in for that discussion as well.
According to legend, General Grievous was known to boast of the number of lightsabers he had acquired from the bodies of his slain Jedi enemies. Grievous was the first in a long tradition of collectors of rare items. A tradition that continues to this day on the Retro Zap podcast known as the Dork Lair. Dork Lair.
It's time for
Silence, Fools!
Okay, it's been a while since I got to say that.
Yeah.
But we got
You did it good. It's like riding a bike.
Yeah, you never forget.
Yeah.
So we got a variety of things to go through today. First up, our friend Rezakai on Twitter tweeted at us and the guys from the Sandcrawler and Jedi Business. He says, "Those that know me know I'm not that guy promoting much of anything, but the 3 3/4 sail barge needs to happen to open the gates for future projects. I'm hoping podcasts cover the how-to of ordering it so fans can back it." So here's what he's talking about. Was it at the Toy Fair? I guess maybe that they HasLabs, I guess this new division of Hasbro, announced that they are going to, I guess it's a special projects way of creating new collectibles and toys for people. And out of the gate, they're doing this Jabba's sail barge. And here's the description. It's measuring approximately 4 feet long. This vast vehicle is a dream item for any Star Wars collection. Designed to captivate and inspire, the vintage collection Jabba's sail barge, the Ketatana, features exquisitely detailed fan-accessible decks that complement 3 3/4 inch figures, not included. Pounds. and collectors to recreate intense battles in the Star Wars saga. Its removable side panels also offer a unique opportunity to pose and set up incredible dioramas.
Cool.
Complete with premium deco, vintage packaging, and soft cloth sails, this dream product offers Star Wars devotees the quality and realism they know and love. Included this vehicle is Jabba the Hutt at 3 3/4 inch scale.
Awesome.
And here's the approximate product specifications. Total length, 49.35 inches long. 14.64 inches wide, total height 17.01 inches, total weight 13.89 pounds. Okay, so again, it's kind of if you want this, it's kind of a crowdfunding method that they're going about it. And they need 5,000 backers to get into production, but they'll take more than that, but you need to pre-order it. And here's one of the other big catches. This is not cheap. It's a $500 collectible.
Wow.
So if you're interested, you're going to need to place your pre-order by April 3rd, 2018. If they get enough pre-orders, they'll go ahead and put this thing into production, and it is expected to ship around February 28th, 2019.
Wow.
Now, as far as I know right now, this is only open to people in the United States or maybe North America.
Okay.
If you're overseas, you're not going to be able to take part with this.
So basically, Dengar Dan's going to have to get Mike to send him some money overseas or something if they want to have this happen, right? Or
the other way around,
cross borders. I'm sorry.
Yeah, because Mike's the one in Canada. But,
right. He'd have to send him to Dan. Right. Sorry.
Exactly. Yeah. So, it's just pretty cool. If I had an extensive 3 3/4 inch collection, I would consider this. Now, I can't go too crazy about the price because I've invested some money in some expensive Lego sets, Star Wars Lego sets, and I don't really have a place for this in my collection, but it is pretty cool. So if you're interested, you need to mark your calendar to make your decision by April 3rd. Otherwise, you're going to get left out on this one.
Yeah.
I've seen some interesting feedback on Twitter. People don't get why they're doing it this way. Well, I think why they're doing it this way is that for such an expensive collectible, they don't want to be left with any of these.
Yes.
So if you're going to do it, you pay your $500, you're going to get one. And if they don't get enough people to do it, then they're just not simply going to do it. You won't get charged for it. But you have to make that commitment up front.
And it's interesting because this is like what we've seen discussed in our Retro Zap channels is that, it's kind of shifting a little bit to where they're targeting a specific type of, market. Let's face it, this isn't for like, hey, has your little kid always wanted to have a 4-foot long Jabba sail barge? Then go ahead and shell out 500 big ones. That they're looking. I think they're looking at an adult market, to be honest with you. For this,
definitely. Yeah. I mean, I can't imagine getting something this expensive for a kid.
No.
That would. I mean, for this price, you're just. I don't know. I mean, I was awfully hard on my Star Wars toys as a kid.
Sure.
For cloth sales and everything else.
Play-Doh.
That'd just be asking for it to get beat up. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's something that I think this is successful. I suspect they'll be doing more projects like this. So if you got any interest, go ahead and get your order in now.
Yeah, pull up your money with your friends.
Okay, now shifting over to email. Our friend David Kelly sent us another edition of 5-year-old questions, except it is now 6-year-old questions, as this kiddo just had a birthday. So
happy birthday! Yeah.
Question number 1: are there any monsters on Endor?
That's a good question.
Yes, I am aware of at least one, the Gorax, which is a large troll-like looking creature that appeared in the Caravan of Courage. I also remember the old MMO, Star Wars Galaxies, had Goraxes on the northern area. Yeah, and you could go fight them if you wanted. And I did that a time or two. Can you think of any others?
I can't remember specifically, but I do remember references to there being large predators that's the reason why the Ewoks built their villages so high up in the trees, just to protect from the ground items or the ground creatures. But I seem to remember there are some other big baddies. And it's interesting to note that Endor is not, topographically just all forest. They call it the forest moon, but it's got plains and oceans and such. So, I would say that given what we typically see in Star Wars, I mean, even on a planet that's relatively tame like Naboo, the huge creatures underwater there, that there would be at least more than, the Gorax skulking around.
Sure.
So, good question.
And then question number 2, why are stormtroopers called stormtroopers? Well, there's an in-universe and probably out-of-universe explanation for that. I don't think there's a formal in-universe explanation. However, the Empire started off with the remains of the clone troopers after Order 66. But due to accelerated aging, they were starting to fade out because they got too old to continue to fight for the Empire.
Right.
And then they were replaced by soldiers who enlisted, and those became the stormtroopers.
Sure.
That doesn't really say why they're called stormtroopers, but that's why we have stormtroopers, no longer clone troopers. There's an out-of-universe explanation that I don't want to get into too much, simply because there's a lot of politics.
And history
there. And essentially, that comes from World War II. The Germans employed stormtroopers, and they were responsible for some atrocities. And I think, there's a bit of evocation there in comparing these characters to what happened in World War II.
Well, especially since Lucas borrowed so heavily from the imagery of the Germans during World War II for the portrayal of the Empire to try to build into our psyche. We already have that feeling of evil from seeing those images into our psyche, right? And so how much easier is it for us to, say, oh, those are the bad guys because of that. But you're right, Dennis. I think if you were to remove that concept from the term stormtrooper, a stormtrooper is typically used to describe somebody, or I guess you would say a soldier that's had more advanced training, better equipment, and is on the first line of attacking something. So that's,
even in this case, they can't hit much. But
right. But still, they're supposed to be. They're supposed to be the first ones through the door, rather than just say regular Imperial Army forces.
Okay. Well, then the last thing we got for Silence Fools is the results of our Twitter poll from last week. And from episode 48, we asked which bounty hunter would you least want to find has a contract out on you. And Jay's entry was Bosk. You offered up IG-88. I suggested Cad Bane. And then, of course, we have our other field for people to write in their own votes. So coming in fourth was the other category, and I'll get into some of the entries there. That got 14%. Third place was IG-88 at 16% of the vote. We had 49 votes total.
Yeah.
And then in second place was my suggestion of Cad Bane, who had 27%. And then Jay's suggestion of Bosk had 43% of the vote. So Bosk is apparently the most feared out of this collection of bounty hunters. Now, some of the other responses we got, predictably, Dengar Dan responded, "Why would you do this to me?" with a GIF. But that was obviously Dengar was who he was suggesting. Ryder Waldron, our friend, responded, "I think I'd go with Box. I feel like he might try to eat me," which is interesting because I don't know that he collects on his bounty if he does that.
Right.
Our fellow retro zappers over at Kanaz Castle responded with Bosk is instant death for my rebel when playing Battlefront 2.
Okay.
And Bosk is pretty much of a challenge there. Derek Spires from Raising Fangirls responded to Dengar because I would be captured immediately when he showed up because I would be frozen with laughter because of the TP man showed up. So there's that. Nigel Cox chimed in with hashtag Boba Fett.
But what if it was mini Boba Fett?
Right. Dark Moose responded, Bosk, of course, because he might just eat you.
Okay.
That seems to be like a common fear.
Yeah.
Or read his horrible haikus. Dripping Yellow Madness responded with Dengar. The correct answer is Dengar. And Jimmy Riggins says, I'll go with Dengar. So from our other category, we had 4 votes for Dengar and 1 for Boba Fett.
Okay.
All right. So for our poll this week, the question is, and kind of a counter to this one, if you needed one person from the Star Wars galaxy to save you from a bounty hunter, who would you turn to? Jay's not here, but I asked her to chime in on this, and she responded with Obi-Wan Kenobi, the way he went after Zam Wessel, and the fact that he impersonated a bounty hunter at one point. Plus, not only is he clear-headed in a fight, not allowing his emotions to get the best of him, but he's lethal with his lightsaber. He cut down the acolyte in the arena fight with Anakin and Grievous, etc. And then she also makes mention that he defended Satine with all his heart too. But of course, that was a different situation.
Yeah.
So her vote is for Obi-Wan. How about you?
Well, I think to catch a thief, you have to hire a thief. So I'm gonna take a cue from you, Dennis, and say Cad Bane.
Cad Bane. Okay.
Yeah.
I am going to go with Mace Windu. Okay. Because we saw him take out Jango Fett, a bounty hunter himself, in the same arena scene that Jay was talking about.
Yeah.
So our choices that we'll put up on the Twitter poll this week are Obi-Wan, Cad Bane, and Mace Windu, and of course the infamous other category.
Because Obi-Wan didn't fare too well against, that bounty hunter. Just saying. So.
Yeah, I'll give Obi-Wan a bit of a pass there because he was trying to take Jango alive to get answers, and Mace Windu
would have none of that. No.
Yeah. All right, well, that will do it for this edition of Silence Fools. And the road to Solo rolls on. It's always fun to look back at a classic Star Wars story. But before we go, Taxus, do you have anything coming up for the Scoundrels to look forward to?
Well, yeah, you can find me over on the Assembly of Geeks Network with the show The Geek Supreme with Scott Murray, Jeff McGee, and Regina Davis. And drops every Tuesday. It's a fun little game show style kind of show where we discuss topics and they kind of vie for points based on their points, you might say. So check it out. Again, it's every Tuesday, The Geek Supreme.
All right, and as for Jay, you can always check out her Core Word Couture columns over on coffeewithnapoleonovi.com. She also blogs over there. Mm-hmm. As for myself, I have some recent comic reviews on RetroZap, including Darth Vader number 11, which I highly recommend, and Thrawn number 1. If you're excited for Avengers Infinity War, you can also check out the review I did for Infinity Gauntlet number 1. I'm doing a series on that right now, of those stories leading up to the movie, and every couple of weeks there'll be a new review for the next issue in that series. Mm-hmm. You can find all my reviews under the comic commentary section on RetroZap. You can find me on Warp Trails, the Star Trek Discovery podcast that I do with my wife, Beth. And Warp Trails is exclusive to the RetroZap podcast feed, which you can also find on your favorite podcatcher under RetroZap, or head over to retrozap.com. Scoundrels, thank you for listening and for your support. If you have enjoyed the show, this has been Starships, Sabers, and Scoundrels, and we would love a review wherever you listen to your podcasts, especially iTunes, which is also known as Apple Podcasts. Remember, you can write a podcast review directly from Apple's podcast app now. It's easier than ever to leave us a great review. We would really appreciate it.
Yeah.
On the other hand, if you didn't care for this, we'd prefer you didn't launch us into space inside a wayward citadel. With that in mind, we do appreciate it anytime you share our show posts on Twitter and Facebook. Please let others know that you're listening by sharing the show on social media. It's a big help, more than you know.
Yes.
A special thanks to everyone who has taken that time to share the show with others.
We are on social media. Starship, Sabers, and Scoundrels can be followed on Twitter and Instagram at SCubedPod, and liked on Facebook, where we are facebook.com/SCubedPod. If you want to follow Jay on Twitter, she is at Joyce Krebs, Dennis is at DJKVER2, and I, of course, am at Darth Taxus.
And additional social media, you can reach us by email at scubepod@retrozap.com. We'd love to hear your thoughts on Han Solo at Star's End, but if you have anything else that is on your mind, Star Wars related or not, then let us know. Emails, really good tweets, and iTunes reviews end up in Silence Fools. Again, our email address is scubepod@retrozap.com.
And we are honored to be part of the retrozap.com podcast network. Did you know that RetroZap is home to 21 podcasts? I mean, that's more than the illegal modifications of the Millennium Falcon, I'm sure. Mm-hmm. Please check out RetroZap for other great shows, including The Animanicast, Brews and Blasters, Doomcast, Skywalking Through Neverland, and Terrigen Dreams, which is, of course, all about the Inhumans. Also be sure to check out our Scoundrels t-shirts on TeePublic. Just go to teepublic.com/users/scubepod, or just search for us on the site. You won't find them at an overpriced gift shop in the hotel you're at. I can guarantee you that.
And thanks to Aaron Lane for our show logos, and to James Volpe, the Sky Geek, for the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly Show logo.
Ooh, and here is our disclaimer. Starship, Sabers, and Scoundrels is not endorsed, affiliated with, or sponsored by Lucasfilm Limited and or Disney. This show is intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. All characters, music, and sounds are the intellectual property of their respective copyright holders. All else is the intellectual property we use that word kind of loosely with us sometimes, of Starships, Sabers, and Scoundrels, unless otherwise indicated.
All right, any final thoughts?
Oh no! We have to go back.
Go back? Why?
Oh, I forgot the car keys.
Right. Well, that will do it for episode 49 of Starship, Sabers, and Scoundrels. Always, thanks for listening and joining us this week. Until next time, may the Force be with you.
Looking at him.
Kid, I've flown from one side of this galaxy to the other. I've seen a lot of strange stuff, but I've never seen anything to make me believe there's one all-powerful force controlling everything. There's no mystical energy field controls my destiny. It's all a lot of simple tricks and nonsense.
A magical power holding together good and evil, the dark side and the light. The crazy thing is,